Okay, we're here with whom?
My name's Robert Hunt.
And Robert, you're a big Star Wars fan, are you not?
Absolutely, I love it.
Tell me what you mainly collect. You're into your Darth Vader suit here, but what do you have at home? What sort of collection?
Well, I had my original collection when I was a little boy, and I always was one of the types that put it in position on the shelf rather than trash it and play with it.
Do you work in film or anything? You make the props?
No, I'm a primary school teacher. I teach 4th class and drive them all mad, basically.
Do they know about your collection?
Absolutely. Problem solving in mathematics. You know, if Darth Vader had this many stormtroopers and 2 got killed, how many would he have left? Okay, Mr. Hunt, thank you very much. So they're sick of it.
Tell us about your collection. What sort of stuff do you get?
I like the little ships mostly. I get the Lego pieces, and I've got some of the clone troopers, just like the ones with the special bits and pieces on them. It takes up most of my cupboard. I've probably got about 100 little clone troopers in little ranks there, and it's great.
And do you have friends that support you with that, or do you sort of hide it away from them?
Oh, for sure, the nerds stick together.
When did your collecting bug start?
Well, I've been collecting for a lot of years now, but I've always been the type of a person who has looked after their toys as a kid. So rather than bite the head off an action figure or put it in a door frame and crush it, I always put it up on a shelf and regarded it more like an ornament rather than something that I'd play with. This is the vault room where all the precious items are. The whole idea of my collection is not so much about having, barcodes and serial numbers and rarities. It's about the toys. I love the toys. Well, the Hasbro and Kenner toys alone, which are Star Wars only, we've cracked the $100,000 mark now, so I have to be very careful.
What's the allure of Darth Vader?
Well, Darth Vader is a really big childhood fear of everybody, I think. You've got the samurai-styled headpiece of the samurai warrior. You've got Dracula's cape flowing. And you've also got that Nazi stormtrooper-esque clothing and uniform, which is highly polished. And it's all got that impressive and menacing feel.
Would you say us collectors are obsessive?
There's absolutely no doubt about that. I've been collecting in a very, very big way for about 10 years just with the Star Wars stuff, and I pretty much kept my credit cards maxed and stress levels fairly high on the rest of the family just by being able to keep things up to date.
What's the most valuable piece in the collection?
The most valuable to me is a sculpture that I've made myself of Yoda.
Have you bequeathed it to anyone yet?
Absolutely not. My life might depend upon it.
So, Pete, old school or new Battlestar Galactica?
Well, DJ, I actually like both.
Are the old school toys still coming out?
They are, in fact. This Cylon behind me here was released 2005.
What's the highest price you've paid for Battlestar?
Well, that's a good question. I did buy a very odd thing, a latch hook kit, which is something that you would make at home with wool. You would make a mat or a wall hanging, and I think that cost me $250 American.
Comics have been around for a very long time, but are recently becoming more popular with the release of movies such as Batman, Superman, and the Fantastic Four. But comics aren't just entertainment value, they also mean big business. Jason, why have comics lasted so long in popular culture?
Well, I think it's got to do with the quality of the classic characters like Superman, Batman and Spider-Man. You start reading these books when you're young and you just never leave the characters.
What is the highest price paid for a comic, and which one?
Probably about $450,000 US, which was Action Comics #1, the first appearance of Superman from 1938. It's a pretty important comic, it's the first ever superhero. The second is probably Detective Comics #27, which is the first appearance of Batman from 1939, which is about $380,000.
Are comic statues becoming the new pop collectible?
I think so. Over the last few years, there's been a lot more companies producing a lot more busts, full sizes, and props, like this full-size Thor hammer.
We've come to Canberra. This time we've found a whole heap of Xena fans. What's the passion with Xena?
Xena is this incredible role model for women. She's a strong woman.
Does Xena attract a certain type of fan?
Well, yes, okay. There is a certain type of fan. She's very popular with lesbians and drag queens, strangely enough.
Now, we've got a huge collection. We're even wearing some of it. Tell us, where did you get this stuff?
Erin went to New Zealand to the auction and brought it all back with her.
At the end of the show, they decided they're going to auction everything off, Hercules Xena. So I went over to the costume auction and bought masks and belts and wraparounds and Amazon gear. So yeah, it was really good.
This is a sword, as you can see. It's got a nice skull motif at the front. It was probably from Hercules and Xena, probably originally Hercules. The guys that actually went on to do Lord of the Rings at WETA were responsible for a lot of these props.
I'd like to welcome Richard Taylor, Director of the WETA Collection of Companies. How many international films has WETA played a part in?
Well, since finishing Lord of the Rings, we've done Master and Commander, Peter Pan, Last Samurai, Perfect Strangers, Hellboy, Van Helsing, iRobot, Kingdom of Heaven, Arctic Journal, King Kong, Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe, Zorro. So it's been a crazy time, and we're very, very fortunate we've managed to stay so busy. We've got an amazing crew, and we want to make sure they can stay with us doing cool films.
Primarily your filmmakers, what inspired WETA to become collectible creators?
We had the great ability to join forces with Sideshow on Lord of the Rings and begin the business. We've created 18 pieces for the Kong line. It's quite a large collection of pieces for a single film. People love the bookends that we did on Lord of the Rings, and that really instigated us to do more for both Kong and Narnia. There are so many other wonderful opportunities out there. We've recently been offered the amazing opportunity of working on Bryan Singer's film Superman that was made in Australia, and doing a limited range of collectibles, art directed by Brian himself. We ended up spending 11 months building the miniatures of the trains for Zorro. I'm very, very pleased with this. This was a really unusual job to get, very different to anything we'd done before. The numbers of pieces that we do range from about 1,000 at the absolute minimum to averaging about 2,000 pieces, and in the case of some of our more successful pieces, we set them up around about the 9,000. That's a very large run for these sorts of fine art polystone collectibles, but we want to make sure that they are very, very special collectibles, and the people that get them will treasure them and have something that very few other people in the world do have.
How do you feel about the astronomical prices being paid in the aftermarket?
Well, it's interesting, the secondary market. We can't, of course, benefit from it. We don't want to. It's up to another person if they would sell on their piece. A piece that we may sell for $150, $200 has been known to fetch up to $8,000 in the secondary market.
What sort of Scooby-Doo things do you have?
I have bed sheets, pillows, cushions, soft toys, clothing.
I'm a huge horror movie fan, and I'm a huge Muppets fan, believe it or not.
Posters, figurines, money boxes.
Now, what are some of the movie franchises that you may collect? Is it like Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yes,
Can you name some more?
I have Lord of the Rings, swords and knives. I have swords, all the weapons from the Blade films with Wesley Snipes, the Highlander films, the broadsword as well as the katanas. The Hellboy, I have his tonfa, the Rambo knives, the Angel sword from Angel the show.
And what sort of price range do these swords start at and finish at? They must get pretty expensive.
Depending on where you go and what you pay, up to about $1,200.
How many would you say you do have around the house?
Oh, on display or?
Well, even just around the house, under the bed in particular.
Oh, maybe 40 odd swords.
40 swords, folks. Don't go breaking in, okay?
And I'm a huge Muppets fan, believe it or not.
Great. We've actually just visited WETA where they made some of those Muppets over in NZ. How many? You've got the busts?
I've got the busts, yeah. I've got the big ones and the small ones and the play sets, believe it or not. I mean, I don't actually sit home and play with them, but they're like the big, pigs in space play set and things like that.
Mate, if you ever get embarrassed, just say you're collecting them for your niece or your nephew.
Yeah, of course. It's for my niece and my nephew.
Money boxes, gun machines.
Is it pretty much taking over the house or the bedroom?
My bedroom, yes.
Okay, we've got to get into that. Have you got a missus?
No, not yet.
And have you ever had one? They come around and see Scooby-Doo. What do they think?
I've taken my friends have come around to my place a couple of times, and they're a bit gobsmacked.
Do they say it's Scooby-licious?
Oh, I don't know about that. They just look at me really strange and think, what's he doing?
Good man. Keep on collecting.